new national education policy. So we have taken a lead role. The new education policy, which has brought in a lot of innovation, lot of new dimensions to the education. But interestingly, some of these things were already being done by AICTE in the last 3 years. To mention a few of them, we had a mandatory internship which started 3 years ago, student induction program, universal human values. There is a lot of emphasis on ethics, values in the new education policy, which is also being followed. There is a big transformation in terms of examination reforms, which we have advocated in the last 3 years. Examination reforms is very significant because from rote learning to true understanding of the subject, analytical skills, critical skills to innovation, all of these are very important for not only employability, but for becoming entrepreneurs, to become problem solvers. The initiation of Smart India Hackathon, which for the last 4 years we have been doing, all of those measures were in the direction of creating a new India, India where technical education is far superior to what it was for all these years. And the results of that are visible in terms of some of the grand applications where our students have been often producing startups who have been creating new products. And I'm very happy that this year, in the pandemic period, 11 new unicorns came out from India. They are all $1 million plus companies who were evaluated. That means there is a lot of strength in our young generation who have got capability, but we need to provide them those opportunities. AICTE's startup policy, which we started in 2016 itself, when the government of India announced its own startup policy, is also an important thing in the making. But the results were not as forthcoming. So we immediately changed the policy in 2019, brought in more variations, and there are lots of flexibilities provided to students while they are studying in engineering college. So I think given all this background, in the backdrop of all of this, the new education policy by Dr. Kasturi Rangan and its whole committee with eminent educationists, I think has given a fresh lease of life to the technical education in the country. And of course, since we have already started reforms 3 years ago, we were more inspired, more motivated to bring in further changes into the system. I would like to just critically mention 3 or 4 areas. Some of them are yet to be, of course, implemented. Number one, the new policy talks about multidisciplinary education. So education cannot be in silos. Even in terms of engineering courses itself, mechanical engineering, fine. As far as course is concerned, majority of the subjects may be mechanical engineering. But today, a mechanical engineering student has to understand as much electronics and computer science or biology for that matter as any biologist or electronics or computer science student. Not only that, for working in the field, for solving problems, a student of engineering may have to also have inputs from maybe philosophy, maybe psychology, maybe sociology. Some of the students may be interested in music, maybe painting, maybe dance, maybe drama. There must be opportunity, not that large number of such courses they can take, but at least for their taste, for developing themselves holistically, 1 or 2 sample courses must be allowed to be taken as electives. All of this, what has been stated in the new national education policy, in small measures, we were already doing it. हम पहले से ये कर रहे थे, लेकिन इसको और ज्यादा ताकत हमको मिली और उसको हमने और जोरदार तरीके से लगाने के लिए इस अप्रूवल प्रोसेस हैंडबुक में वही बदल किए. तो एक पहला बदल ये है कि मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी एजुकेशन. तो इसके लिए 2 एलिमेंट्स आते हैं. वो एक पहला एलिमेंट मैं बाद में बताऊंगा, दूसरा एलिमेंट पहले बताऊंगा कि हमारे इंस्टीट्यूशंस में एडमिशंस कम हो रहे हैं. किसी जगह में 50% एडमिशन, 60%, 40%. There has been a problem of number of students admitted in the capacity being there, but people are not joining. And therefore, infrastructure in most of the institutions is lying idle. How do we make use of that? So we have allowed within the same city, if there are multiple campuses of the same society or the trust, they can join together. We call it as merging of institutions. And while doing merging, Of course, they must have enough facility in a given particular one campus. If it is not, they can still make use of their earlier second campus, which was available as a different college. But one condition we have imposed is that on a given day, students should not be made, also faculty should not be made to travel from one campus to the other campus. Maybe on different days, they may be asked to attend classes in different campuses. Maybe like Monday, Tuesday, they will go to A campus, Wednesday, Thursday to B campus, Friday to the C campus. But on a given day, they should not be made to move from A to B to C, because travel time in our cities these days is very, very difficult. It may take away 1 or 2 hours of student. So this will facilitate making use of facilities in multiple locations, but there is no heartburn in terms of traveling on the same day and missing classes or expenditure on the travel. I think both of these things are taken care of in this particular process. This is where multidisciplinary comes in. The new policy also talks about different types of our institutions which have got admissions or student strengths ranging from as low as 50, 100, 200 to some of them to 3,000, 5,000. So the ideal number for an institution to run is worked out to be approximately 3,000. And also, since it is going to be multidisciplinary and also a self-contained campus, gradually over a period of time in the next 15 years, all institutions should become autonomous. All institutions should also be degree awarding institutions. There should be no affiliation of colleges to the university. Of course, it cannot be done overnight. There is a window of 15 years provided in the policy. But some baby steps have to start right now. And there was an excellent model of the MHRD and UGC called the RUSA. So 5 or 6 campuses or different colleges, arts, commerce, science, engineering, can come together and operate as a cluster university under RUSA. So taking the cue forward, if a society or trust has multiple institutions in the same city, why can't they work together collaboratively? Because anyway, they are of the same society. We will come to a couple of years down the line, 5 years down the line, how different societies also can come together and operate together. But probably that has much more complications. But at least the society or the trust having multiple campuses in the same place can easily be merging together or working together, thereby giving an opportunity for an engineering student to go to an arts college of the same society and learn music one day for about 2 hours in a week. Similarly, someone else will go to learn philosophy or psychology, because psychology and sociology is so important for application of engineering in real practice. In real life, it is not the technology which matters, it is the human psychology which matters most important in order to translate that into action. And that is why I hope this is a very significant change which is there. So we have allowed this multidisciplinary education in the form of either the same society or you have an MOU with another institution. Some of their faculty can come and take classes in your university or your college, or you can send your students to that college. And not only that, the Swayam platform, that is our MOOC platform, which was started by again AICTE, thanks to MHRD, which gave us responsibility more than 4 years ago. Now the Swayam 2.0 is in the making with IIT Madras, but the first version itself was so successful that we allowed 20% of the credits of any program to be taken through the MOOC courses of Swayam. That means if your university or the college does not have a particular discipline faculty in your college or university, students should not be deprived from learning that. Because quite often we were seeing in our curricula of the universities, there is a mention that elective 1, and elective 1, there are 5 different types of courses listed. But when a student goes to the heads of the institution and asks for the number 3 elective choice which is available, the principal or the college head will say, this is not available because we don't have a faculty in that. You either take number 1 or number 4. 2, 3, 5 are not available. Maybe next year if some faculty joins, we will allow you. And because of the shortage of faculty, they will always, many times, although it is called elective, it used to be almost single subject which is available out of those five of officially, choices being available, choices were not being executed. The SWAYAM platform itself gave that grand opportunity of taking any of those remaining three which are not available in our college from an institution of excellence like an IIT or some university who have offered that under SWAYAM, and still credit those credits of that course into the transcript of respective own college and university. That means the width had already expanded earlier itself. Someone student can also was in a position to take music, but now even physically they can start taking it once the crisis of corona is over and people can start moving in. They can go to one campus to the other and can do it. So multidisciplinary is very, very important and which is being approached here. As I said, the second part, which I would say later, first part, I said the second one, the issue which has been raised quite by a couple of journalists, and since yesterday I've been getting phone calls after phone calls, and that is why I thought of addressing this sort of press conference and invited all of you at short notice. All of you have joined. I'm indeed thankful to you for understanding the nuances of what we have been doing. The entry-level qualification is one of those issues which have been, many people are still not able to comprehend and understand. So on other side, when after joining, we are talking about multidisciplinary, let us look into the new education policy in the school level education, which has been mentioned that from the present 10+2 system, it is going to be 5+3+3+4, and the student entering into the school at the age of 3 instead of at the age of 6. And the first 5 years, that is first 5, from the age of 3 to 8, are going to be in the form of the education in mother tongue, the regional language of their choice, because from home, they just come into the school for the first time and they should not get a shock. So they will continue to get educated in the same mother tongue which they speak at their respective homes. So starting from there, when they come in for those first 5 years, rather than emphasis on reading, writing skills, more emphasis on learning or understanding by what are known as very innovative ideas of telling stories or playing games, taking them for an outing, provide them different types of toys, and students will really start understanding as well as getting interested in education. Many times when you start forcing student in a 3-language formula to write scripts in 3 different languages at the age of 4, 5, they get disheartened and they say that this is not their cup of tea. Although they are capable, they feel that they cannot make it. And so if you tell stories in not only Hindi, but also in the regional language like Tamil or in Malayalam, wherever they are, along with English, I think they will start understanding not 3 but 5 languages very, very easily, because you are only telling stories. A story in mother tongue is known, same story you translate in Marathi or Hindi or Punjabi or Bengali or Tamil, he will start picking up the words. And that is the best way of teaching the language. Once you understand the language, they will also start speaking. First is listening and understanding, then comes the speaking. Once speaking and understanding is there, people who are interested will learn those scripts of their choice. If they are interested in Hindi, they will learn Hindi. If Marathi, English, whatever language becomes very smooth. Having said this, after these 5 years, the next 3 years, they will be having emphasis on the 3 R's of the old era: reading, writing, and arithmetic will continue in full scale. Therefore, by that time, they have understood numbers without writing. Now they will actually start actual calculation of sums, multiplications, divisions, etc. The next 3 years is going to be starting of the skill development. That is the age of after 3 plus 5 plus 3, that means 11 years, you are well built by that time and you will be in a position to work by hands very well. Therefore, various types of skills ranging from whether it is carpentry, whether it is gardening, whether it is agriculture, whether it is different types of plumbing or electronics technician, to even Internet of Things, anything can be given in the form of hands-on work to students from that age for the next 3 years, and 1 or 2 skills will start getting developed. And these are of their choice. A student likes something, he will be able to do. Some of them may learn painting, music, dance, drama also during those 3 years. And in the next 4 years, the present system after 10th standard, of course, up to 10th standard, even today, there is no bifurcation like science, maths, or a arts or a commerce subject. Maybe 1 or 2 subjects are there of this type. But our diversion takes place after class 10 today. The 11th and 12th is watertight compartment. Someone goes into science, he will study physics, chemistry, maths, biology. Someone getting into arts will study some subjects of arts. Someone going into commerce will study commerce, economics, etc. And they are totally divergent fields. But in the new policy, in the last 4 years of that primary and secondary education endpoint, which is still the 12th standard equivalent after 15 years, the last segment for 4 years is totally generic. Any student can take any subject of his choice and then get into higher education beyond 12th standard in a college, where of course there is arts, commerce, science, engineering, medicine, law, but flexibility of multidisciplinary. So when a student is able to enter with diverse background after 12th in the future, the first baby step has been taken by AICTE by saying that, like in the past, in the long time ago when engineering started, I'm talking about 1980s and 90s, in engineering means input will be only those students who have studied physics, chemistry and mathematics, PCM. Of course, today also, most of the universities, most of the engineering colleges, most of the entrance exams, whether it is JEE, CET, are still in the subjects of physics, chemistry and mathematics, and engineering admissions are done. But way back in 2010, it is not new. More than 10 years ago, AICTE made only out of these 3 mandatory subjects earlier, from physics, chemistry, mathematics, chemistry was taken off, and only mandatory subjects were mathematics and physics. Chemistry was also taken along with 7 or 8 other types of programs like engineering, drawing, computer programming. There is a statistics, there was vocational education. Any one of these domains, one who has done apart from mathematics and physics, were also allowed into the domain of engineering education. But we were facing challenges in the last 1 decade. There are new types of disciplines which have emerged. There were a lot of criticism that especially computer science faculty and students, we never get anything to do with chemistry in our entire career, not only while studying, but later. Why are we being forced to study chemistry on one side? On the other side, there were programs like biotechnology, which emerged only in the last decade. And biotechnology faculty and students were saying, or even bioinformatics program, they are saying there's a lot of input of biology which is required. A student who has taken only mathematics, physics and chemistry entering into the system are found wanting. So why not biology be made mandatory for this? Now, this way, there are many verticals, many horizontals where different requirements emerge. And therefore, there was a very classic case which came up this year itself. For admission into an agricultural engineering or agricultural technology, we were forcing students to have mathematics, physics, also chemistry. Now, those students in the open schooling as well as CBSE schooling, there are subjects where there are agricultural chemistry. Now, people say this chemistry we will not admit. We need agricultural chemistry, is not possible. We need only pure chemistry. I think these kind of divisions have created a lot of trouble in our higher education system. We have been working only in silos, within building cocoons, walls around us, not ready to see beyond our own domains. And therefore, new education policy has given fresh air of opportunity for all of us. And we are trying to make use of that in this. So, like chemistry was not mandatory, we have said now that even mathematics, physics is also sort of one of those subjects. Out of those 10, any 3 subjects, a student should be in a position to enter into engineering. Now, there is a caveat, should not suddenly make headlines tomorrow in the newspapers that mathematics and physics are not mandatory, not required. That is not correct. Many programs will still require mathematics as one of the most important ingredients for engineering education, followed by that physics, followed by that chemistry. Mathematics, physics, chemistry in that order will still continue to be important inputs for engineering education of almost majority of the discipline. There may be some exceptions. Like biotechnology, I gave an example. Ceramics, there may be an exception, but textile, there may be an exception. But by and large, I'm saying. Similarly, in computer science, they may say that we will be preferring a student who has done computer programming or something of that sort, or advanced statistics, because they are the ones which are very valuable for the program in computer science and not the chemistry. So there is a lot of flexibility which is required, which is there in the part of the new education policy, which we have brought into this particular approval process handbook after a lot of deliberations at different levels. So it does not mean that physics and mathematics is not required or chemistry is not required. The JEE, the entrance exam of different state governments, that is CETs, which organizations are conducting, may continue to hold examination in these three subjects themselves. And admissions will also take place based on these subjects themselves. But we are creating a new window for such students who have possibly either not taken mathematics or not taken physics or not taken chemistry, but can they also enter into an engineering education is what we have opened up. But this subtler difference has to be clearly noted. Otherwise, the wrong headlines will come and there will be issues. So I'm clarifying mathematics, physics, chemistry in that order are the most important, followed by maybe engineering, drawing, graphics, which is important for every engineer, followed by that even biology today. Biology is as important in engineering as in the medical science. People may not realize it today because many innovations which are happening today, many research which is happening today is bio-inspired. You take the solar cells, the dust being accumulated on that, if you have to clean it every day, it's a big challenge. But there are animals or the plants whose leaves or whose skin do not attract the dust at all. Can we replicate that kind of a model in an engineering material? You know, these are the kind of things where biology-inspired innovations come in. How the plants grow, looking at nature, how the rivers flow. I think each one of them are valuable, and these are to be brought into the curriculum on one side. And therefore, while opening up the window, this is not mandatory to none of the states or the universities that they must admit students from any of the three courses of the 10 or 12 listed there. Universities and the state governments may continue to have the same three subjects of mathematics, physics, and chemistry as mandatory. We are saying that if any state or if any university wants to open up on the lines of the new national education policy, they were today restricted because of the APH or the approval process handbook of the AICTE. We have created a window of opportunity. This is purely a window of opportunity which is open, but not restricting or forcing or making it mandatory that any three subjects can and should be allowed. ऐसा नहीं है. ये subtler difference सब लोगों को समझना बहुत जरूरी है. उसके अलावा, suppose a state decides or a university decides that without physics we will admit or without chemistry we will admit, but the program is such that you require the knowledge of one of these subjects which they have not taken in their 11th and 12th. And in such occasions, certainly university can prescribe what is known as mandatory bridge courses to make students coming from diverse backgrounds to be on level playing field with that of the rest of the other students who have done these three subjects. To make it clear, suppose mathematics, physics, and chemistry are all required for a program, say in mechanical engineering. You require mathematics, certainly yes. You require physics. You require also chemistry. So the CET and everything is done in this and you are admitted. But some student is also admitted, is permitted to be admitted by AICTE. It does not mean you should admit, But if you admit a student who has not taken chemistry, but one of the courses of chemistry is necessary to study, understand some part of mechanical engineering, especially material science part of it. In that case, a student has to do one or two additional chemistry courses, which otherwise he should have done or would have done if he had taken 11th and 12th with chemistry as one of the subjects. So I think this is the difference. Similarly, if someone has not done mathematics, he should be made to do additional mathematics courses in the first year so that he will start understanding every bit of engineering in that second or third year of engineering. And to give a concrete parallel, people should not raise issues today because AICTE, not now, for almost all the 25 odd years, has been permitting those who have done diploma in engineering into direct second year as lateral entry students. There was in fact 20% quota, we have reduced to 10%, but because there are huge number of first year vacant seats, all vacant seats and the additional 10% supernumerary quota are being filled by different colleges in their second year through the lateral entry of those who have done diploma after their 10th standard. Now, why I'm drawing this parallel is a diploma student who has completed diploma is after 10th standard, it is a 3-year program. The mathematics, the science, because up to 10th, science is only science. It is combination of physics, chemistry, biology, everything together is science, and there is a mathematics subject. So mathematics is an independent subject up to 10th, but science is not physics, chemistry, but it is only even biology. Physics, chemistry, botany, zoology, whatever you call, all of that is together as one science subject. So such students, when they have joined diploma, and the diploma is of 3 years, intensively in a branch of engineering of that type, mechanical, civil, electrical, very little of physics or chemistry or mathematics they do in their diploma. They certainly do some mathematics, some physics, but it is absolutely much less. But such students, when they directly come into the second year, please remember the difference or the gap that already exists. A student who was at 10th level, physics, chemistry, math, and there is another student who has done 11th and 12th in science stream of physics, chemistry, and mathematics, which is equivalent to 2 years, means 4 semesters. 1 year is equivalent to 2 semesters. So 2 years of 11th and 12th is equivalent to 4 semesters. And in the engineering first year also, there is a course of mathematics, there is a physics course, chemistry course. In fact, there are 2 mathematics courses in first year of engineering. There are sometimes 1 or 2 courses of physics. There is 1 chemistry course. All of this content, which is equivalent to another 2 semesters. That means a diploma student who enters into the direct second year has missed out on as much as nearly 6 semesters equivalent of education of physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Maybe he has done about 1 semester of physics, mathematics, chemistry in diploma, but still the gap of about 4 to 5 semesters remains. And such students, when they come into second year, they are found wanting in understanding of some of the subjects where mathematics details are worked out, physics details are worked out, background, whether it is in engineering like vibrations, whether it is in electrical circuits, electrical machines, they do not understand some of the mathematical derivations because that mathematics they were missing. And therefore, the concept of giving them bridge courses in mathematics, in physics, in chemistry already exists for about 25 years. So it is not that it is something absolutely new, but it was being practiced for those who were coming in with 10+3 diploma into the direct second year. Now those who are coming in to the first year of engineering after 12th standard, for them also this is going to be made applicable and they can still navigate, they can still swim through the stream and become fine. Little while ago, my Vice Chairman Punya, who is there on the left-hand side here, and Dr. Rajiv ji, who is there on the right-hand side, they were giving me example that some of the toppers in the BTech program at the end of 4 years, when the gold medals are announced, CGPA or highest marks are announced, they are the diploma students who came in after their 10+3 and they studied in the engineering college from the second year to fourth year. They beat hollow some of those students who had done their already 12th standard physics, chemistry, maths and studied 4 years. These students studied 3 years in this college, but they were in a position to make up. I think that openness is required, and therefore, if the 12th standard student without some subject out of those physics, chemistry, math comes into the system, if he or she is required to study additional physics or maths or chemistry, as the case may be, as per the requirement of the program, and prepares herself or himself as much or as good as those who have done 12th standard and the first year of engineering together, I'm sure they will come off with flying colors without even having gone through this. I think this is the subtler difference which we must understand in the light of the new education policy on one side, multidisciplinary approach in higher education on the other side. The third component, which I said right now, explanation, the input. So what is the objective? The objective is at the end of the program, that is engineering programs, what are the outcomes to be achieved? Our focus has to be on the outcomes, not the input. Input may vary. Whether input is of X variety or Y or Z variety, the output we want gold standard. We don't accept anything below that. Maybe while entering they are silver standard, bronze standard. While they get out from the system, they must be of the gold standard. I think that is the philosophy with which we have been organizing this kind of a approval process. And I think this was the major challenge. The second one, as I said, primary education is being imparted in mother tongue, and higher up to maybe 10th standard is what is advocated in the new policy. But new policy also talks about allowing students to learn even engineering and medical education in the mother tongue. अपने अपनी मातृभाषा में पढ़ने के लिए मौका मिलना चाहिए. इसका मतलब फोर्स किसी के ऊपर किया नहीं जाएगा. See, many times what happens is when something is given, this is an opportunity created. This is not being forced. Many times we always have this misgivings. ये सब लोगों को मातृभाषा में ही इंजीनियरिंग करना पड़ेगा, नहीं करना पड़ेगा. लेकिन जिसको मदर टंग में करने की इच्छा है, उसको आज तक हम अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं दे रहे थे. So this is an opportunity which is created. I think this is the difference. Today also we had a survey recently. We conducted, please remember, the survey was on those students who are already in the second, third and fourth year of engineering. That means they have already been studying engineering in English. Whether they came from what background doesn't matter, but they are already studying. So they have already got used to it in English. Despite that, a whopping 42% of the students have declared that had opportunity to study in their mother tongue in engineering was available, they would have opted for studying engineering in their mother tongue. And the surprising thing, despite the large population in India being that of Hindi speaking, it was not from Hindi speaking belt that the 42% numbers came. It came from Tamil Nadu. Maximum students of Tamil Nadu stated that had they got an opportunity to study engineering in Tamil, they would have studied in Tamil. The second was in Hindi, the third was Telugu, fourth was Marathi, fifth was Kannada, and later other languages. So I think there is an inherent interest amongst the students who are already studying engineering to study in their mother tongue had this opportunity was there. But please remember, there was another question. How many of you have studied your 11th and 12th standard in English medium? Majority of them had studied in their English medium only. Their science education was already in English. Despite that, these students are saying that they would have taken in the mother tongue. Now, come to the other part. Those who have done their 10th, 11th, 12th in their mother tongue, they had a fear, lurking fear in their mind that everything is going to be English in the university and the college. I will not be able to make it up. And therefore, if some guy from remote area of Nagaland or Mizoram or somewhere in Jammu Kashmir, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Punjab, Bengal, any one of that, if they did their 12th standard education in mother tongue, and that fear was there in their minds that I will not be able to manage and adjust to English. Therefore, they did not even aspire, they did not even come to higher education. If you add that percentage, this 42 will shoot up to 60 to 70%. And therefore, as a country, when we talk about access, equity, why can't we provide education in mother tongue? So that is a major change. We are allowing, another thing is, we are not allowing any college to start programs in mother tongue, but only those colleges who have proved quality. It does not mean that because we are teaching in mother tongue, the quality can be lower. No, quality in fact should be much higher. That is the spirit, and therefore only those autonomous accredited institutions can apply for starting a new division of maybe mechanical engineering in Malayalam, or in Punjabi, some institute may want to start electronics, and so on and so forth. I think that is the spirit which we have adopted. Again, this is not compulsory. Any institution where they have got faculty who are ready to do it, they are ready to appoint new faculty, there is a demand. Demand is there now. Demand is clearly visible. 42% of the existing students, when they are asking for mother tongue, those who are outside the system, please remember, our gross enrollment ratio in higher education is just 27%. So that means already 73% are outside the gamut of this higher education. Maybe not all of them interested, but we are wanting to raise our bar and go to 50% GR in the next 15 years. So those at least 23% of them who are outside, they may be interested in coming into mother tongue. So I think this is another area which we have covered in the new approval process handbook. But a question mark comes always that what about books? What about teachers? So we have taken steps in that direction of making books available. Large number of authors, we have communicated to them to write books in regional languages, in their mother tongues, translate excellent English books also in the different Indian languages. The SWAYAM course, which is of importance, by mapping the entire AICT's curriculum with that of the MOOCs courses which are available on SWAYAM platform. 128 such courses are identified, which will take care of majority of the disciplines like civil, mechanical, electrical, electronics, and computer science. And courses in these 128 courses of SWAYAM are being translated right now in 8 Indian languages, and we want to expand it to 11 languages, which are the major languages. If you do that, study material will be available. There will be also lectures available. PDF files will be available. I think therefore teachers can also read them, students can also read them, and the examination can be conducted in those languages. I think these are two absolutely significant changes that we have made in the new national education policy. There are many other things also, but I would like to deal with only these 2-3 aspects which are absolutely significant. And beyond that, some of you must have read approval process handbook 1 or 2 times already, because I know journalists are very trigger happy in reading and finding out what is where and then trying to write it. And if you have any queries, questions, apprehensions, you are free to ask those questions both online or in a chat through chat box, or if the microphone is opened up, you can also speak and I can answer to them as well.
Professor Sahasrabudhe, can I ask a question? This is Prashant Nanda from Mint.
Is it? So I will take 1 or 2 questions. Then there is another Niti Aayog meeting. I will join that meeting, and the vice chairman and member secretary are there. Our advisor approval bureau is there. They will answer the queries.
Sir, Ardra Nair here from Times of India, Pune.
Professor Sahasrabudhe, can I ask a question before you go for Niti Aayog meeting, sir? This is Prashant Nanda from Mint.
Jaldi, 1 minute है मेरे पास इसलिए.
Sir, you talked about opening a new window in terms of subject choice while getting into engineering. If you but before that, our engineering entrances, whether at the central or the state level, are vanilla engineering entrances. They are largely PCM driven. If you are giving a window to a student to opt for, let's say, history and mathematics and others, how he will give the entrance examination? Are you going to make sure that the entrance examination in the state or at the center through JEE or the CET, they are also giving option of math, of a history or a philosophy or a drawing or anything along or a biochemistry along with PCM, so that the student is ready? Otherwise, how will he crack the exam, sir?
My dear friend, right now in the 10th, 11th, 12th standard, there is no such provision existing at all to take history and then do the science education at all. I'm talking about future. In another 3-4 years, when it is fully rolled out, then that question of CET being available in those subjects will arise. Today, there are states who admit students not based on entrance exam. I will give you example of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu, they neither take JEE results nor they have their own CET. They do it on the basis of 12th standard examination. If Tamil Nadu government wants to start allowing this, they can easily transform and start. Other states may take some time to do it. We have not, see, please again, I'm repeating 10 times. We have opened an opportunity, but students cannot ask that this is there in AICTE handbook, I must be given admission and I will not take chemistry as the CET subject. Today that provision does not exist. But if some state has such a CET, non-CET admissions, and if they want to allow, if the AICTE regulation did not allow, they would not have been able to do it. Now we are today allowing them to do it. That's all. It does not mean they should do it. Please understand the difference between they should do it or they are allowed to do it. That is the
Fair point, sir.
Yeah.
Fair point, sir. Absolutely. Professor, can I ask one more question? I have one more query from the first part of this press conference. So this is Prashant again. Yeah, sir, you talked about merging up institutions in a given city if it is owned by the same owner. So let's say Prashant Nanda has 3 institutions in Delhi, and all of the institutions are running at 40 to 60% capacity. So the new handbook says that in 2 days, my students can study in campus A, campus B, and campus C. But how this is getting into optimal utilization of resources? So if all my students are studying in campus A on Monday and Tuesday, my campus B and campus C are staying vacant. So how is that optimal utilization of resources, sir?
Say 50% admissions are there. First of all, 2 institutes if he is merging, and one of them, it can be free now for another courses, say BSc, BA, like that, on those type of courses can be started, so that infrastructure will be free. Now in one institute there is mechanical, electrical, electronics, other one is also having some mechanical, electrical, electronics, and some additional courses also it is there, and multidisciplinary activities we are planning to have. So some elective subjects are being run by computer engineering department, and that computer engineering department is not available in this institute. So for 1 or 2 days, students can attend those elective courses in computer engineering in that institute, and remaining 4 days he can spend for these core areas like this one. So that sort of planning can be done by both the institutes which are getting merged. So more options will be available for the students for this multidisciplinary, for electives, the emerging areas, core and elective subjects which we are offering. So minor, major degrees we are also offering. So in 2 different institutes, those type of facilities which are available that can be enjoyed by the students.
So 2 different institutions by 2 different owners, or they were the same owners?
Owner is same. The institutes are 3. The courses may be different. So some of the courses as elective in one academic institute, another courses are in other academic institute. So both advantage of both the separate courses, the professor, that advantage can be taken up by that student.
Sir, how many institutes or engineering institute or technical institution we have in this country where we have 3 campuses of the same owner in the same city?
Maybe some 100 same type of owners, no? Even more than that. Yes.
100. Okay, thank you, sir.
Please.
Sir, this is Ritika from the Indian Express. I just had one clarification in case I missed this during the press conference. Sir was referring to this survey that was conducted in which students indicated their preference for studying engineering in their mother tongue. So was this a survey conducted by the AICTE? And if yes, then how many students did it cover?
It has been conducted by AICTE and particularly students who are studying engineering. It is not the students who are in class 12 who wish to enter into engineering education. I think some 5,000, 6,000 students have given their inputs, and roughly 80% they are willing. If this option would have been there, we would have studied in our mother tongues.
Right. And so just one more thing, sir also mentioned that not everybody will be able to offer programs in mother tongue, and that only institutions of a certain standard, but how do you define that?
Actually, standards are already there. In technical education, we are having three types of institutes. One is autonomous institutes, which are affiliated to universities, but they are having autonomy of designing their own curriculum, conducting examinations and all, but degrees are being given by the university. Those are quality institutes. In fact, they are having NBA accreditation also. Some of them are having NEC rating also. Second type of institutes, which are not autonomous, but NBA accredited. They are standards of education that is means at par even at international standards. So those type of institutes are there. So we are giving permission to those institutes which are autonomous or which are having NBA accredited programs. In those programs, they can offer in regional languages, and even additional seats will be given to them. Regional languages anyone can offer, but for additional seats, 60 seats additional even will be giving to the institutes if they are starting courses in regional languages, but they like to have certain level.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, this is Arthra from Times of India, Pune. I did not understand one part of it. For example, if I am a student and if I have taken engineering, graphics, vocational education, and any other one of the 10 subjects mentioned, I give my CET or JEE, taking physics, chemistry, biology, I study it from the outside and I clear JEE. Do I still get admission in IIT?
IIT, we people are not looking after. Okay, sir?
No, it is
Yes.
going to continue.
Yes.
Or any of the engineering colleges for that matter?
So at present, IIT JEE is having physics, chemistry, maths. That option they are having. IIT JEE may be changing after certain time, but in some of the states where there is no entrance examination, and this option which is available, immediately state governments and universities can take decision that this type of option they can give in time to come. Even some of the states are conducting their entrance examination. There also these options can be available for the students. As far as JEE examination is concerned, I think it may take some time for implementing what we are suggesting. And in time to come, maybe next 3-4 years, when this NEP also will be implemented at its full scale, that time all sort of options will be coming even through this JEE examination also.
Any other question is there?
Honorable Chairman, sir, is again back.
I have requested them for some more time.
So just one more question. This is Ritika again from the Indian Express. Sir, could you just tell us what is the status with regard to approval of new engineering colleges? Because about 2 years ago, you all had said that from 2020-21, you all will not be approving new engineering colleges, except for those whose applications for whatever reason, were deficient or they were asked to fulfill certain extra. So are you all approving new colleges? I mean, did you all approve any new last year, and would you all continue to do that?
Yeah, no. We had already said that for next 3 years, we will not do that, and we are maintaining that. So already 1.5 years are over. This time also, we will not. We will take a call at the end of the next year and decide whether we have to open it up or not. So currently, there is no new engineering college which can be opened, but the existing engineering colleges can certainly add new programs. But even the new programs, we are not allowing them in the traditional disciplines, but only in the emerging areas like AI and data science, cyber security. There can be courses which are absolutely important for both Atmanirbhar Bharat on one side and also employability and creativity, as well as creation of startups. For example, food processing technology. If some institute wants to create that, I think certainly important, because in some regions, a lot of wastage happens of the fruits. And if the fruit processing technology program which is launched, maybe in Himachal Pradesh or Uttarakhand or in northeastern states, there will be a lot of opportunities for creating startups and also make use of that. And many times we always script that a lot of material which is produced in the farms does not go to the market and it gets rotten. On the other hand, if there are educational institutions which run such programs, certainly someone can start a small unit. You may employ 5 people, but that is a contribution that that individual is doing for the nation. On the other side, this time we have added some programs in the blue economy, in terms of entire India's big naval coast. Bharatmala project is also there. There are a huge number of opportunities and jobs in the naval sector. So it's not a full-fledged degree program, which we will probably do next year, but we have postgraduate certificate and post-diploma certificate. 1 year programs we have launched. It is in different domains. A normal diploma student or a normal graduate student, if he is not getting job, if he gets into this 1 year diploma, which is a post-diploma or postgraduate certificate program, only 1 year, spending another 10,000, 20,000 rupees fees in 1 year, maybe he will get large number of opportunities in the sector of not only ships, but also on the coast, on the various types of activities in the naval sector, including security. I think that is very significant. Those courses have been launched this year.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, can you share that survey with us where you said that, this many students had opted for regional language?
Yeah. Swamiji, you quickly get it from Malkhede. Malkhede se zyada hamara e-governance se log did it, so you can get it. So we will send you a brief, what we say, how do we send it? Through our media cell? We will send emails to all of you. Okay?
Yes,
So
sir.
the same email ID from which we received the invite for the press conference would be good.
Yeah, sure. We have this email ID, so we will share briefs. In fact, a similar survey was conducted by IIT Hyderabad for IIT students. Of course, there the numbers are less. Only 20% of the students indicated that they are interested in learning, and even them, none of them had studied their 11th and 12th itself in local language. So the IIT sector is slightly different. So please remember, unfortunately, all said and done, IITs are the excellent institutes of the country, and the examination is so tough, 11th and 12th or JEE. The number of students getting selected without going to coaching classes has become so rare phenomenon. Based on the 11th and 12th in their school or in the what we call a pre-university college, a student, however bright, will find it great difficulty. So all of them get into those coaching classes, and therefore the students who have come in are all from English medium, and that is a tragedy. So the new policy, when it opens up, and also JEE exam will be conducted from next year in many Indian languages. 11 languages are already announced. So probably some of those bright talent which is there hidden in remote corners of the country will get an opportunity.
Sir, this is Prakash Kumar from Outlook Magazine. As you were discussing right now about JEE exam to be conducted in 11 languages from next year, what about JEE advanced exam, sir?
Probably that also should be conducted, will be conducted. So the advanced exam is little later. So hopefully that also should be conducted. Otherwise, there is no meaning. If you are only doing it in the main and then advanced is not conducted, you will find more difficulty later. So I think both will be conducted. I'm not having full information, so do not take my words. It is my. You can talk to NTA, National Testing Agency, and then find out exact, because it's going to be of the next year. By that time, certainly preparation will be there for all of us.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. This is
Ah.
Rudranarayan Sahu from skilloutlook.com. Recently, UGC has already plotted a concept paper or draft paper for the Academic Credit Bureau, so that the credit points will be transferred to in between the institutions. So AICT approved process is going to implement send the credit transfer points, or what is the modalities?
No, I think academic bank of credits is a completely new concept, and the work is in progress. A lot of meetings have happened. A draft regulation is also put in the public notice for taking suggestions, and based on all the inputs, UGC will take care of announcing the exact nature of doing it. We already have National Academic Depository. National Academic Depository is the final certificate after the program is completed. Suppose someone completes BA marks and certificates are uploaded onto that portal today. BE is completed, that is uploaded. ME is completed, ME is uploaded. But in the new concept of academic bank of credits, it is not the entire certificate, but the credits earned or the marks secured in individual subjects from any particular university or college from where you have taken that course, and the exam will get accounted and will be placed in the name of the student. So that means if I am from Delhi right now, if I take some, say, Hausraj College, I will go and take some 10 courses. I would have completed those credits, and those courses will be listed in this academic bank of credit in the name of mine. And then my father gets transferred to Kolkata. I will go to Calcutta and join another college and complete another number of courses. Both together, when my requirement of getting a degree, minimum number of credits or subjects that are to be completed are completed, then that university or college will award me a degree. I think this is the essential concept, and this is being pushed in full swing, but it will take at least next 6 months, 1 year to come to. So this year, maybe this is not possible. By next year, certainly academic bank of credits will open. We will all be able to open our accounts. Like we open bank accounts, we will have to open accounts, and it would be unique. So any student studying anywhere, even from including SWAYAM courses, which I referred to earlier, which are going to be increased from 20% to 40%, all of this will get covered in that. So I can do my education from multi-universities and then still earn my degree.
Sir, just one more clarification. For example, if a student has taken any of the courses other than mathematics or physics and has given a entrance of a deemed university per se, but later on during admissions, is it the prerogative of that university to decide whether they accept these subjects, these out of these 10 subjects, or can the student say that because it's there in the handbook, he can take admission?
No. It is obviously the university which has to take a call, and in their academic council or the Senate take a decision that AICT has given this flexibility and opportunity. So we will admit or we will not admit, and we will admit for which branch of studies, what type of courses input is there. You rightly asked. In fact, I had not mentioned, but it's a good question that you asked. So all that what we were referring or we have been doing was for generally about the state's affiliated colleges to the universities, because there is a counseling which takes place. There is a methodology which is involved in entrance exam, either of the state. I gave example of Tamil Nadu as an exception, but otherwise in most of the states, either they have their own state entrance test or they follow the JEE main examination results for their admissions. And therefore, in all these states, in all these affiliated colleges, not only this year, but even probably till next year, the admissions will be still based on physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Let us understand that. Let us not jump the gun and say that it will all change. But in these institutions, certainly change will happen a couple of years down the line. But in the deemed universities or the private universities, they can adopt even right now, this year itself, because they have all the flexibility. Their Senate or Academic Council can meet and they will say, instead of 10 courses which AICT has allowed, We will not take all 10 of them. We will announce 4 of them or 6 of them. It is their choice. Suppose they will say that we will take physics, chemistry, mathematics along with, or they may still say that mathematics is still compulsory, and out of physics, chemistry, etc., we will take 3 of them. Or they will say that engineering, graphics is allowed, but that is not. So each university is completely independent in taking their own decision. We are only allowing for the universities to act. It is not the matter of right of the student to claim that I must be given admission, but it is a student who is being empowered through this mechanism. And if someone is sensitive, some university is proactive, if they are pro-reform, such deemed universities, private universities can immediately implement, because there are still 4 months time for the next academic session to begin, and they can have their Senate meeting or academic council meeting, Senate meeting, and take this decision, what is to be allowed, and then announce. See, significant thing is whatever they decide, they must advertise in advance transparently. It should not be the back-end action that in the beginning we don't say anything and then we start admitting. Let it be transparent. Let them announce that we will allow out of these 10 courses, these 7 courses or 6 courses. If they have done their 12th standard with these courses combination, we will be admitting you or allowing you, and we will have a system of what we call it as gap analysis, and based on the gap, we'll give you big bridge courses, and you have to complete the bridge courses in the very first year so that you will not find difficulty. In fact, if you don't do those bridge courses, student himself will find difficulty in the understanding of the subject of the second year. So it is both in the interest of the institution, the student, that designing of the bridge courses as is required for different inputs will be required. You know, from different diverse backgrounds, there are diverse bridge courses which are going to be there. मेरे ख्याल से करीब-करीब सब कुछ जो था ये और वो क्वेश्चन
राइट अप हम भेजेंगे सर पूरा।
हाँ, ये हमारा एक राइट अप भी भेजेंगे।
पूरा
We have made a brief write up. We will send this write up also. And further, if you write an email, still have questions, we will give you our replies. Because individually, मुझे कल रात से 10 फोन आए. Late night, 11 o'clock, someone calling at today morning, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Then I decided that you come at 2 o'clock to 2 of them, and others I informed through email. And many people said that they cannot come all the way in such short notice. I said we will give you opportunity to listen to us and also see us through the WebEx link, or you can join us. You need not physically come. But today, this is the power of technology. We did not physically go, but we can still interact with each other, see each other, talk to each other. So let us make use of this. Thank you very much.